Hey everyone, Gavin with Fanboy TV here, back at Otherworlds Austin. I am joined by
John Hudgens.
Yeah,
Microphones are important.
Yes, they're very important. And you did a movie called Backyard Blockbusters,
Yes,
which
I
is
did.
all about the genre of fan filmmaking.
Mm-hmm. And the fan filmmakers.
Now, it's one of the more interesting subjects because we live in a time and age where if you have a camera and a computer, you can be on YouTube and you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people still sit around going, well, maybe one day I can do that. And it's really, really good to see people who are like, let's get our friends together, let's go do this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like there's a point in the film somebody makes. It's just because you can do it doesn't mean that you can. Well, it doesn't mean that you can do it.
Yeah.
And these days, YouTube has been great for filmmakers in that it's opened it up to so many more. But there's so much more stuff out there you have to weed through to find any of the little gems of the good things.
Yeah, and that's we call it the internet cat video syndrome. If there's a cat in it, people will watch it a million times.
Mm-hmm.
And can you explain that at all?
No.
I just don't get it. It's like the dumbest things on Netflix and on YouTube will get all these hits, but then you get these really good fan films, and it's like.
Well, but a lot of the stuff you find on YouTube, you watch it once and then it's gone. It's you've seen it, and it doesn't have the staying power that something like Pink 5 or Hardware Wars or some of those things that you do, because Hardware Wars, it's 35 years later and people are still talking about Hardware Wars with for a good reason. It's a fantastic film.
So you just decided one day, get up, I'm going to make a film about fan filmmakers.
No. Well, for one thing, I am a fan filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
I touch on it very briefly, very lightly in the film, but we've done several ourselves. Lucasfilm did a contest for many years during the 2000s looking for parodies and documentaries based around Star Wars.
I remember those days.
And there were two grand prizes every year. There was the George Lucas Selects Award, which Lucas himself watched and picked his favorite film. And then there was the Audience Choice Award, where the fans worldwide voted for their favorite film. And I won that twice. With one of them was called The Jedi Hunter. It's Boba Fett as the crocodile hunter.
I have seen that.
You've seen that one?
Times,
Good.
yes.
Okay. And then the other one we did was called Sith Apprentice, which is the Emperor as Donald Trump looking for his next apprentice.
I don't think I've seen that one yet, but that does
we
sound
did that
like
in
a really
2005.
idea.
And then we've done a couple of others. One of them, Lucasfilm took to the Cannes Film Festival with them in 2005 to help promote the premiere of Episode 3. Which they told us about at the last minute. But so I was already, in the fan film community. I was starting to help out with theforce.net, and I was finishing up another documentary I did called American Scary, which is all about the classic television horror host.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Anton Griffin from here in Austin has got a big part in that film. And we were just sitting around waiting for dinner one night. It was like 2 days before we were to go interview Vampira, the original actress that played Vampira, and we just got the idea, well, you know what? Let's just shoot some stuff about the projects we're doing. Maybe somebody will do it, with it someday. But we're here in the midst of it right now because they had just won the Audience Choice Award for the second Pink 5 film, and so we're like, let's just do something. And then it just sort of got to the thing where I would just start shooting something anytime I went to a science fiction convention, shoot another interview for this with somebody I knew that did one, sort of to help write off the cost of going to these conventions. It became a business trip.
He outsourced it.
Well, I didn't outsource. I mean, I was still doing it. I mean, it was still me going to all these conventions.
Wrong word. What is the word? He tax deduction.
I business expensed it.
Business expensed it. That's what I'm looking for.
Right. But around the time 2007 rolled around, I realized I had stacks of tapes, and it's like, what, I ought to start really buckling down and doing this because by that point I had been helping out with theforce.net. I had been screening some films for them. Remember, this is still pre-YouTube.
Yes.
2006. YouTube is still a barely their thing.
Ah, the good old days.
Mm-hmm. I miss the good old days like that because the great thing about the pre-YouTube days is you had sites like iFilm and Atom Films and theforce.net, which were a filter. They went through all the crap. All the 10,000 kids with lightsabers in forests and picked the best ones out of those and showed you the best. So you had that buffer between you and all the crap that was out there.
So,
but the point being is, by that point, I knew so many fan filmmakers, either past and present, and they knew me, they knew my work, and we'd all become friends hanging out at conventions. So it was really easy to get to them because they all knew me. They knew I was going to treat the subject, hopefully, respectively, because they knew my work, and they knew, if I was going to be talking about fan filmmakers, I was going to be talking about myself.
What is the one film or property that you have noticed, maybe outside of Star Wars, that has the most fan films associated with it? Like, what do people love to make outside of Star Wars films?
Well, Star Trek has become big in recent years, but it took a while for that infrastructure to get there, because there's a line in the film saying to do a Star Trek film, you just can't be out somewhere shooting dinosaurs with your phasers.
Yeah.
Star Trek needs costumes, it needs sets, it needs that infrastructure, and it took a couple of years for people to get to that point. So, and now we've got quite a few series going. Of course, there's Star Trek Phase 2, which we mentioned in the film. There's a new show called Star Trek Continues. You've got Starship Farragut. There's some people doing some next-gen stuff in England. I forget the name of it. But there have been things. Obviously, of course, the Doctor Who films are a little bit more popular in England than they are here. And there've been, Batman. It's probably Star Wars, Star Trek, and then Batman.
Yeah, I could definitely see the superhero ones. I've seen quite a few good fan superhero films. Now, the one fan film I would really like to see is a long time ago, someone made a mock trailer for a Pac-Man film. Do you remember that one where he was like the motorcycle guy?
Right.
Why hasn't someone turned that one into a movie? Because I would actually watch that.
Give them time.
Give them time. It just has to come up and go more.
I mean, someday somebody's going to be desperate enough for an idea and say, hey, why have we not turned into a movie yet?
Pac-Man. So, I have noticed that when it comes to fan films, Star Wars is probably the most fan-filmed. But with the new trilogy coming out, how much more do you think is going to be added to the fan film fodder?
Who knows? Lucasfilm, they brought the official contest back. It went on hiatus in 2011. At the time, we thought they'd ended it, and then of course, looking back on it now, we know in retrospect why they did it, because at Lucasfilm they already knew the Disney deal was coming, and they were wrapping up all their contracts with other major companies, because the original contest was done through Viacom. So they wanted to get that out of the way. So, in retrospect, it's obvious now, but at the time, we thought they were just ending it.
Oh, they hate us? What's going on?
No, it's not. Well, it's hard. It's hard to say. I mean, because you never know what the next great idea is going to be until it happens. I mean, when we did Sith Apprentice, we were trying to come up with an idea for it, and we were not having any luck. I mean, and then it was literally like 5 weeks before the deadline of the contest, this idea popped in our head, and almost fully formed. But until then, it was like there's no way we're going to come up with something to top the last film we did.
Yeah.
And now we're sitting there saying the same thing. There's no way I'm going to be able to come up with something to top Sith Apprentice. Who knows? Ask me in April next year if that's still the case.
So, are you really excited for the new trilogy?
I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if I'm not involved with it right now or anything like that. One of the great things about being involved with the fan film community is I've actually worked on real Star Wars projects since I did my Star Wars films. I got invited out to Lucasfilm several times, and I've actually worked on real Star Wars projects in the interim, which has been great. There was this great year there where for 2 years anything about Star Wars was a business expense.
Wow, one day I want to give you that lucky just be able to put it was Star Wars related. Check off.
Yeah. No, literally. I mean, I hate to say this, but I bought one of the master replicas models of the Millennium Falcon. It's like this. It's like literally this big, and I use it as reference for the game.
It's business. Yeah, it's my coffee table now, but it was for a really good.
And
purpose.
It is my coffee table now.
Really, you just got like the glass on top of it. It's like
no. But no, it's mounted on glass, which is on my coffee table. But.
Oh, nice. So, I think one of the most interesting things when it comes to the Star Wars fan filmmaking is that we now have 30 years between Return of the Jedi and the new one, that they are now ripe to tell stories since they got rid of the entire extended universe. So now it's like you could tell all sorts of different stories and not be tied down to what's already existed.
Well, the thing I point out with fan films is the great thing about it is it's a visual shorthand. You don't have to do all the what's the word I'm looking for? The setup. You don't have to do all the exposition to explain the Star Wars universe to somebody. You can just, as a fan, you can just jump right in and tell your own story. You don't have to explain lightsabers and X-wings or whatever to anybody. People know that. They get that.
You'd be surprised. We actually know someone who has not
to
watched
another
any
fan.
of those movies.
To another fan, you wouldn't have to explain
to
it.
the fans, yes. But there are actually some people who've been living under rocks and have no idea what Star Wars is about. And to you, I say shame. Shame.
I pity them.
But so
no, well, I don't know if you can see this on here, but granted, I did not see Star Wars the week it came out. I didn't discover it till later on that summer. However, once I discovered it, I saw it 2 times the same night, and I've been wearing this belt buckle for the last 35 years.
It's 35 years you've had the same belt buckle.
Yeah,
it's an X-Wing belt buckle.
Yeah, the belts have changed, but the buckle has stayed the same. No, literally, I have been wearing this belt buckle since 1977.
That is some serious dedication. Okay, I'm gonna have to up my Star Wars game to
It's one of my little nerd things, But
it works though, because 35 years.
Well, no, actually, right now we're at 37.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Time lapse here. It's 37 years.
I'm an old fart. No, I was 10 when Star Wars came out, so I was a perfect age.
I was
for
just
it.
born when Star Wars came out, so
I'm done.
He's like, I didn't get to watch it that year either because I was, I couldn't even move my head. But I love Star Wars. Like my son, he was shopping with his mom, and there was some Star Trek stuff on the shelf, and he goes, "Mom, does Dad like Star Trek?" And she goes, "Never say that around him. He will disown you."
Well, see, I don't have a problem with Star Trek because I grew up in an era where that was all we had. I grew up rushing home from school, watching reruns of Star Trek on TV because Star Wars didn't exist. Yeah, there was no Star Wars when I was a kid.
My problem with Star Trek is it's too much of an optimistic future, and I don't think as humans we'd have that. I think we'd have more of the gritty future like Star Wars would produce. Whereas Star Trek was just
if we're gonna have a future, it's gonna be Babylon 5, not Star Trek.
Okay, yeah, I would totally give you that one.
And I do not say that just because I worked on Babylon 5. Babylon 5 was a much more realistic future than Star Trek.
Star Trek was way too perfect, and everything was just too clean. Mm-hmm. And that's why I liked, what was it, Star Trek Nemesis, where the Federation was kind of corrupt, and then they didn't go anywhere with it.
But that was just a sucky movie. Well, Nemesis was the last film, so of course they couldn't go anywhere with that. But
no. What?
No, you're thinking of the Undiscovered Country. Yeah, the Star Trek 6.
No, it was the one with the clone of Picard. That was Nemesis.
That was the last film.
No. What was the one before that? Where they wanted to rape the planet for the resources.
Oh yeah, well that was the one before that. Whatever its title was.
That was the one before that. I can't even remember the name of it.
Insurrection.
Yeah, I like the fact that they were alluding to the fact that there'd be something a little bit more sinister, and then it's all out the window for the next movie.
Well, they did that also in the original. In the original Next Gen series, they did that at the end of the first season, and then Roddenberry and his lawyer stepped in and it's like, no, everything has to be happy family.
Although the Borg are pretty cool creations, I'll give them that much. How would the Borg work in the Star Trek universe? I mean, the Star Wars universe. You get some Borg Wookiees running around. I think this would be kind of frightening, don't you?
Well, from what we hear, Chewbacca is somewhat half cyborg now.
Oh, that'll be quite interesting to watch. He's got like the little eye that goes.
No. He's got a robotic arm. I should probably not say.
Who wouldn't want a robotic arm though?
I really should probably not say too much because I've seen some things that I probably shouldn't be talking about.
So before we talk about that anymore on camera, how have you liked Otherworld's Austin so far?
I've had a very good time. I really enjoyed the big film last night, Time Lapse.
Yes,
that was fantastic.
A
couple of the shorts I really liked. But I literally flew in yesterday, came straight to the theater, saw films, got up this morning, saw my own film, going to watch some more films today. But before I fly out tomorrow, I got a friend of mine who teaches at the university here. He's taking me out somewhere cool for brunch and show me some stuff around here. So
sweet. Hopefully he takes you to the Draft House because the Draft House is like the coolest place ever.
No, this is I can't remember the name of it, but it's a Mexican. Well, it's a brunch place.
Oh, you should tell him, dude, I don't want brunch. I want to go to the Draft House. I'd be like, hey.
Not for lunch.
Yeah, they actually serve food.
Oh, okay.
So you can get lunch.
Well, I'm letting Andrew.
I see how it is. So
hey, it's his dime. It's his town. I'll let him pick.
Yeah. So how often do you think you'll be back in Austin? Maybe some sort of fan film festival somewhere?
If someone wants to invite me to screen the film or do something or bring a fan film festival back to there, I'm more than open to coming back.
Fan film
this is the first time I've been to
fun.
Austin. I was actually here in Texas earlier this year. I was in Houston for I was moderating the Babylon 5 20th anniversary convention they did in Galveston back in January. So
lots of fun. So thanks for taking time to talk
with
us.
Oh, sure, no problem.
And thanks for spilling a few secrets about the new Star Wars.
Well, it's just,
What's the deal with the roly-poly droid that looks like a soccer ball?
Oh, you mean rotate?
Whatever it is, yeah.
I don't know if that's what everybody's nicknamed it. ROT8, rotate.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Who knows? I mean,
I want one in my house to clean the floors.
I'm hoping for the best. I'm fearing the worst, but we'll find out.
It can't
may
be
next
any
year.
worse than Episode 1.
Never say never.
Well, there won't be any Jar Jar, so that's already a step above.
Well, I will say this: if you've not seen any of my fan films, I did kill Jar Jar Binks in one of mine. So
how satisfying was that? You're like, yes, we would need more guts and more blood coming out of his stupid body.
Actually, it was for a very lame guy because we were doing The Apprentice. Instead of he was fired, no, he was fried.
Oh, see, now I'm gonna have to go watch that because I freaking hate Jar Jar Binks.
Okay, well, it's on YouTube.
What were they thinking? Seriously, what were you thinking with Jar Jar Binks?
His son named the character. There you go.
Okay, so we'll be back with more from.
No, literally.
Really?
Yeah, literally. His son Jet came up with the name Jar Jar Binks. I kid you not.
How old was he?
At the time, like 8.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. We'll be back with more from Otherworld's Austin after this.